Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township for November 15th, 2022. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time, if Pastor Craig Withrow with Assembly of Christians could open us up in prayer. Just thankful to see you here.
Oh, it's good.
It's been a long year for you.
It sure has. Last time I came, my wife had to drive me here because I wasn't able to drive yet. So. It's a good deal to be here. Let me tell you. In uncertain times, I thought I would just open up with a reading of a psalm that it gives us encouragement that's rooted in certainty. So from Psalm 46, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her, she shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. The nations rage, the kingdoms totter. He utters his voice, and the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. You may join me in prayer if you're of a mind. Heavenly Father, Lord God Almighty, your word instructs us to pray for those that are placed in positions of authority to lead and to guide us through this life, from the highest position in the entire nation to the local township board. And in whatever way, Lord God, we find those with this responsibility to lead. We pray for them tonight, that all of the members of this board, male and female, Lord God, would have be of good ethics and good moral character, and that, Lord God, they would all be seeking that great wisdom to do the job that they have been sworn in to do here, seeking that wisdom which is from above, the place where all great wisdom flows. Lord God, help them to bless us, that we may be at peace in our hearts, that everything they do, even those things that don't turn out as well as they might like, or we, are done for the purpose of trying to serve you first and foremost, and then those in which you have given them a responsibility. We pray all this in the name of the Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Okay, at this time we have a public hearing, a request for special approval use and final site plan approval to erect a wireless telecommunications tower on parcel 5802-002-022-00, also 404 West Samaria Road. This is the public hearing for a cell tower final site only. Okay, motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Okay.
Support.
Motion supported by Ms. Janaszek. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Ms. Janaszek.
Aye.
Mr. Gore is absent. Mr. Bruning.
Aye.
Mr. Montry.
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0. Anybody have any public comment to this specific item? Okay.
Motion to close public hearing.
Seeing none, motion to close public hearing.
Support.
Okay, motion supported. Any more discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Ms. Janaszek.
Aye.
Mr. Montry.
Aye.
Mr. Bruning.
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion passed 6-0. Okay. Hirschberger?
Mr. Steiner.
Steiner, you got this one?
So I will debate on which route to go, whether I read the requirements or the actual motion. I've decided I'm going to go ahead and read the requirements that the Planning Commission made the recommendation to the Township Board to approve this site plan for the tower. First off, it states the Township Board, after receiving a recommendation from the Planning Commission, can, and if possible, a recommendation by the Monroe County Planning Commission and or under such conditions as Township Board imposes after finding that the use is not injurious to the district and environs, is not contrary to the spirit and purpose of the ordinance, is not incompatible with already existing uses in the area, will not interfere with the orderly development of the area, would not be detrimental to the safety or convenience of vehicular or pedestrian traffic, will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services, and will be consistent in ensuring that the general public health, safety, and welfare will not be infringed upon, and will be in compliance with all township, county, state, and federal laws and regulations, and which, once approved, shall be deemed to authorize only one specific use and shall expire and become null and void without further notice or action by the township board in any case where the special approval use has not been established within 6 months after the township board's grant of approval thereof, or where the special approval uses is discontinued or ceases to exist for 6 consecutive months or for 18 months during a 3-year period, and which may be revoked by the township board after it finds that any of the requirements of this ordinance or conditions of the approval are not being maintained. The Planning Commission deliberated on this particular tower. The property that the tower currently sits on is going to be, I shouldn't say demolished, it's going to be taken down. It's going to be moved to an adjacent property, which the tower company has an agreement with a neighboring parcel. They're going to meet all the requirements and objectives set in the ordinance and the rules. The site where the current tower is would be brought back to normal standards, whatever contract they had with the people that owned that particular property. A portion of that tower will actually be used on the new tower where they're moving it into the new property. Therefore, the Planning Commission said that it met all the conditions as required by the ordinance, and through all the discussion, the approval was unanimous to move it to the neighboring property.
Okay. Comments from board members? Questions? Mr. Bruning?
I have one for, so the,
And if we have a representative that wants to come up, feel free.
so the owner of the property where it's currently at, he doesn't want it on his property anymore?
I'll even defer to the applicant. There was no agreement made between the current property owner and the cell tower company, and that's why they decided to move it to the neighboring property.
Hi, for the record, my name is Eric Cole. I'm with KCI Technologies, representing Crown Castle, who is the tower company.
Did you want?
Did I state that correctly?
You did, yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
No.
Okay. Do you have anything you'd like to add? Okay.
I'm here to answer any questions you guys might have.
Okay. All right. I look for a motion.
Do we need 2 motions?
The
We need special approval first and then the final site?
Yeah, you've got the special use, and then you have the site plan.
Right.
So I'll make the motion for the special use for the tower on parcel number 58-02-002-022-000, otherwise known as 404 West Samaria Road, Temperance, Michigan, 48182, based on the recommendations of the Planning Commission and the minutes and reasoning set forward.
I'll support it. Okay. Motion is supported by Peroni. Any more discussion? Okay. Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay. The motion passed 6-0. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
One more
And the
motion.
second motion?
Oh, there we go. One more motion.
Second motion is to approve the final site plan for parcel number 5802-02-002-022-000, known as 404 West Samaria Road, Temperance, Michigan, as presented and requested for approval by the Township Planning Commission. The drawings and everything are in your packet of which we approve for the site plan.
Okay. Support.
I have a
Any
question.
discussion?
Should we include all these bullet points in this motion?
We're basing it on the condition of the Planning Commission recommendation, so that would encompass everything that is bullet pointed by the Planning Commission.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that's what we were including.
All right.
Thank you.
Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Ms. Janusik,
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, the motion passed 6-0. Okay, item 2, approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda is submitted.
Support.
Okay, motion and support of Mr. Bruning. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Ms. Janusik,
Aye.
Mr. Montroy,
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion passed 6-0. Item 3 is the consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to approve and place on file, A, minutes of the November 1st, 2022 regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. B, the general savings, pooled funds, and seated reports from the treasurer for October 2022. And C, the revenue expense report and balance sheet for the period ending October 31st, 2022.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Mr. Bruning. Any discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Ms. Janusik,
Aye.
Mr. Montroy,
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion passed 6-0. Item 4, we have a presentation from the Monroe County Sheriff's Department. Their update. How you doing tonight?
Good evening. How you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. Lieutenant Brian Francisco with the Sheriff's Office. I was asked to come down by Under Sheriff Polly. He's at another meeting, and the sheriff is unavailable. I drew the short straw tonight. So, no, I'm just kidding. Happy to be here. Proud of the Bedford Depths. They do a good job. Bedford stats for October. The Bedford deputies ran 516 complaints, 197 assists on call for service, 25 arrests, resulting in 41 requests for warrants from the prosecutor's office. And the Bedford deputies made 185 traffic stops, resulting in 54 citations for the month. We wanted to highlight a case that occurred in October, and I just put a little thing together here. I'll read it off, if you'll bear with me for a minute. On October 20th, at approximately 4:30 p.m., Central Dispatch received a report of a missing person who walked away from her house in a neighborhood off Secor Road, south of Stearns Road. The missing person was a 50-year-old female. The word had spread in the community about the search, and we received a report from a witness who had observed the missing person walking in a field on the west side of Secor Road, no shoes on. The weather was inclement that night. It was fairly cold already. The level of concern was elevated due to her manner of dress. Temperatures were consistently dropping, and nightfall was coming. So we were in kind of a scramble mode to find her. The search kind of intensified. Minutes turned to hours. Daylight turned into night. We were still searching. The immediate area was checked. To no avail. A lot of people started turning out. We had 15 deputies, both on and off duty. We had deputies coming in. Sheriff's Office K-9 Division, drone team, mounted division, all responded. The members of the Bedford Township Fire Department turned out with a plethora of people. Whiteford Township Fire Department showed up. Monroe Community Ambulance, ProMedica Air sent out a helicopter. The state police responded with their K-9 division. So first responders all kind of involved in the effort, coordinated the search, which continued until approximately 10 p.m. when members of the Bedford Township Fire Department located the missing person in a thick wooded area on the west side of Secor Road, south of Stearns Road. When found, the woman was suffering from effects of hypothermia. She was immediately transported to Toledo Hospital for treatment. We wanted to kind of highlight this case and just show that police work and law enforcement is more than just taking people to jail. Extremely proud of the relationship we have with the Bedford Fire Department, the area fire departments, and just shows that the goal is to protect and serve the community down here. So that's a good thing. By the grace of God, that night we were successful, and happy ending. I do want to read a little thing that the parents of that subject put in the Bedford Press. It was a thank you kind of to the community as well as the responders. And our sincere thanks. It was a bitter cold day on Thursday, October 20th, 2022. I heard a door close and thought that my daughter had merely gone to the bathroom. That was not the case. It was a little after 3 p.m., and I couldn't find her. My husband had been gone and had arrived just before 4 p.m. to the news of her absence. He called the police, starting with a search involving police, police department, fire department, ambulance, helicopter, drone, police on horses, police with dogs. They searched tirelessly, finally finding her in a wooded area around 10 p.m. She had walked away wearing no coat, no shoes, no socks. She suffered from hypothermia and was taken by ambulance to a hospital. How will we ever be able to express our feelings and thanks to the tireless effort of everyone involved? Thank you. It just doesn't seem enough. Sincerely, if I can talk tonight. Sincerely, Bob and Connie Dietrich. It's been a long day. Sorry about that. But it's a happy ending, and I'm proud of that one. So,
Very cool. Anybody have any comments or questions? We appreciate you guys, and thank you for all your work.
Excellent work.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Have a
good
great night.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Up next is public comment. Comments limited to 5 minutes for board agenda items only. Just state which agenda item you'll be speaking on.
This is in regards to SEMCOG. My name is Al Pryor, 1167 North Park. Paul had me get involved with SEMCOG for about the last 5 years, and it's one of the organizations where we truly do derive benefit. I've been involved on several committees. The last one I was involved in is on the legislative committee, which on December 11th, they'll take that platform to the executive committee to be approved. Those are issues that we're going to be working with the new legislators on in that regards to transportation, education, economic development. So they will be pushing the things that are good for villages, townships, and cities. I've also was able to work on the bike and pedestrian committee, which was really great because out of that committee, those from Monroe County, we formed another committee, and that's how we got our 100-mile bike loop going. However, SEMCOG was there to get us a grant for our planning grant. That was like around $40,000. Over the last 5 years, they've had numerous webinars. The last one I attended was in regards to the DNR Sparks grant, which now where the park committee is going to go for that. So that was something that came out of that, and Carol was on that seminar, and Aaron. So those are things they do for us. But what's really beneficial for us, they have a staff of planners in regards to transportation that we can call on any given day, and they'll assist us. They've come down here to Bedford to work with us. Like when we were getting the grant for downtown Temperance, they had somebody come down here. She did a whole SWOT analysis for us and so on before we even went for a grant. So there's many things they do for us. And just today is a prime example where I had a business owner give me a call and said, Al, can you get me data in regards to the roads on the traffic count on Lewis Avenue and on Secor Road and so on, because we're working on this expansion. I don't know where to turn to. Well, we've got the resources. I called the planner. They said, hey, look, we'll have some data for you tomorrow. So those are the things they do for us. They send us free stuff, which is great, like for promotions, for biking and so on. They'll send us reflectors, lights, and so on. So I would encourage a yes vote on this. It's a great organization. And again, they just do a lot for communities throughout our southeastern region. So any questions?
Appreciate it.
Great. Thanks.
Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. It's a rarity I find myself on the same page as Mr. Pryor. But I am here to also support the SEMCOG membership. While I'm not on any committees at the township level anymore, I still look at a lot of their data. And you should be doing it too. The Transportation Improvement Program is a significant program, multi-million dollars. You need to understand if there are any projects on there that might directly or indirectly impact Bedford Township. Some projects, perhaps in adjoining counties, will have a direct or indirect impact on the township. The federal aid minutes and the federal aid monies, all of that goes through SEMCOG by law. And so you should understand how that all works. Population changes within the township. That's important for you to understand because you're having some zoning questions tonight. Where are the projections? Where are we going? Where are we growing? We're getting older. A few years ago, I had a long discussion with the school board before your time, Todd, about building another grade school. Because the population projections were that the folks that were coming to Bedford were not bringing young children. They were bringing middle school and high school. But they built it anyhow, and pretty soon what happened? They closed down too. The distribution of ages in the township will help you understand when the developers come in here and say, we're building this kind of housing project. And you see most of them recently have been senior housing projects. The housing stock, what's going, what's not going, what's doing well, and the distribution. All of this is important for you to understand how to make a rational business decision about how the township is growing, where it's going, what impacts we have externally and internally, as well as impacts on our neighbors, because that will, from time to time, impact us too. So the cost, in my view, is very small in view of the data that is available to you, including all of that Mr. Pryor brought up. And I would encourage you to make that payment. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. I'm speaking to 3A, 8D, and 8E. You have approved the minutes, and I am requesting that the approval be pulled until they are corrected. You had two females who were allowed to speak at the last meeting without giving their names and home addresses. This goes against protocol, and since Mr. Peroni sits on that committee, he knows who these people are and could have obtained the information needed to ensure the minutes were correct prior to this meeting. I commented at the last 2-minute portion of the meeting that this had been overlooked. And it was they tried to shove it underneath the rugs because it was going to be counted as part of my 2 minutes. As far as 8D, the approval for the land division, while it appears that this split will fit in, I believe we must be careful when we start to compare to what has existed in the past as a reason to allow something to occur in the present. Times have changed and our population has exploded, and we are the epitome of urban sprawl. But I'm not opposing that split happen. You know, it can be done, and it should be, but we've got to start being more careful with our decisions. 8E, I wish to oppose any further expansion. At concern is the original building really should have never been put there, but that's my opinion, despite the fact that the man has a good business head. The expansion could be imposing onto the noted wetlands that are to the north. Please refer to D. Kuzno's comments at the planning meeting on 9/13 of 2022. Storage units are not pretty, especially if allowed to store wrecked vehicles outside. And the future of the property directly to the east, who knows what happens. Our master plan calls for egg preservation north of Stearns. Despite breaches of this north of Temperance Road, we must start to adhere to this, especially in that area down by Stearns, which is more reflective of the egg flavor in that area and the adjoining Erie Township. Just because there's an industrial tag put onto that property, this may allow too wide a door for this company to do things that will not be in the best interest of those properties that are north of Stearns. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Good evening, Logan Tisdale, 1308 Brandywine Street, Temperance, Michigan. This in regards to agenda items 4A and agenda items 8C. I'd like to start with 8C. I would hope that the board would approve the Simcoe annual membership. I want to give credit where credit's due with the Sheriff's Department. You probably don't think I do that very often, but I'm going to do it tonight. They had 54 traffic citations and 54 accidents. We have a lot of accidents in Bedford Township. We have a no turn on right at Secor and Stearns, and you know what? People are still turning right there, and you can't blame them that because that's state law. You can turn right on there. The problem is there with the traffic light. It should be over the traffic light so they can see that. There's so many signs in that area. It's impossible to pick out all these signs when you're driving up at 45 miles an hour. Also, I want to compliment one of the deputies. Here's a guy that goes out, doesn't investigate one accident, not one. Has 65 hours on patrol, writes 28 traffic citations, which is more than half of what the whole contract officers did between 10-1 and 10-31. That means he writes one traffic citation for every 2.3 hours on patrol, a one-man unit. And that depends on what hours he's working. Obviously, at night, there's not as much traffic. That's pretty darn good. I would say that if I saw that on the majority of these people, you wouldn't see me up here. But how can a guy go 86.7 hours on patrol, investigate 4 accidents, write 4 tickets, assuming that he wrote those tickets on patrol and not on the accidents? How can you go that many hours on patrol? Or you go 66.7 hours on patrol, 66.75 hours on patrol, investigate 5 accidents, not write 1 ticket? How do you do that? How do you go 45 hours and 45 and a half hours on patrol, not write a ticket? How do you go 43 hours on patrol and write 1 ticket? How do you go 55.25 hours on patrol, investigate 8 accidents, and write 8 tickets, assuming that those tickets were written on patrol? Those 7 guys went 350 hours on patrol, investigate 18 accidents, wrote 14 tickets, assuming that those 14 tickets were written on patrol. It took them 25 hours to write 1 ticket. And yet you get one guy goes out there, it takes him 2.3 hours to write 1 ticket. 1 in 10. He's doing what, 10% more work or 100% more work than these guys are doing? How do you figure that out? Now, I understand that some of this has to do with the hours that they're working. You know, you're working a midnight shift. I worked midnight shifts. There were times it was hard to find traffic out there. So I can't compare that without knowing the hours that they worked. But there's a disparity in that when you have all of these hours on patrol, all of these accidents investigated, and very few traffic citations. There's something wrong with that. But I want to give credit to that officer that went out there and did that. Because I'll tell you, working a one-man car, I worked a lot of one-man cars, mostly during the day, obviously, because the state police don't work at night without 2-man cars, at least when I was working. So for a guy to go out there and every less than 2.5 hours write a ticket, that's pretty darn good. So I want to say something positive about that. I'd like to see more of the guys going out there doing that because I believe the work is out there. And the more cars you stop for traffic violations, that's the only way I know, in my years as a police officer, which was 23, how to reduce the traffic accidents in any given area. And we have a lot of accidents in Monroe County, and we have a lot in Bedford Township. And we've got 10 guys working here. You would think that we would have the least amount of accidents in all the townships. But unfortunately, we have a lot of traffic here. And there's a lot of people speeding. I mean, you can go out there on Lewis Avenue and you can sit there right there at the fire station there and sit behind that sign there, and I guarantee you can write people running 60 miles an hour all day long. So we need to get a little bit more handle on this. I would hope that you would do that as a board. And I want to thank that one officer for doing that kind of work. Thank you.
Ron Cousineau, 8032 Crab Road. It's of the rezoning of a lockup. First thing, it's been a nice wherever it's been there. Should not have been there to start with, but it is. It's in a floodplain. There's 2 storages within 1.5 miles of there, one on Smith and Telegraph and one on Lewis just south of Stearns. There's no benefit to Bedford Township. There's no more employment other than the one person they have there now. Do not make a bad thing worse. And the only one that's going to make better is the people that own lockups, going to make them richer. So I'm against rezoning that piece of property. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments.
Good evening. Lee Lavoie, representing Triple L Farming, 178 East Stearns Road. Would like to talk about E. I would like to deny the request to revoke the PUD agreement, only because you'd eliminate the floodplain, a 100-year floodplain, and that will definitely affect the surrounding farms. And I'd like to donate or relinquish the rest of my minutes to Diane Kuzdo.
We don't do that. She could speak.
Oh, all right.
Carmen Cugino, 8032 Crab Road, Temperance, Michigan. We own the property right next to Lock It Up Self-Storage. And the way we got that property was when the Rowe brothers sold the property, they sold part of it to Joe Garbrick and part of it to a doctor and his wife that were planned on building a house on that 20 acres. But lo and behold, it was in the floodplain, and they were not allowed to build a house where they wanted it or what they wanted to do with the property. Well, in the meantime, the doctor died. So we had a widow with a young boy, and she wanted to build a house there. But all the hoops she would have had to go through to build a house was too much for her. So out of the blue, we got a call, and she asked us if we wanted to buy that property farm. So we did. It's close to our houses. We're just down the road from there. Well, after we got the property, then this all came up about Lock It Up Self-Storage. And we have 20 acres there. We have enough frontage that if this is rezoned for them, what's to stop us from rezoning our 20 acres and bringing in anything we want or sell it to somebody that is and have industry? I think if you approve this, you will start a domino effect with this rezoning farm ground. We have farm ground across the street on Crab Road that could be zoned industrial too, but we have the industrial park across the street, across Stearns Road, with the master plan said that all industry was to be south of Stearns Road. And it's a beautiful industrial park. There's no reason why anything can't go there. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Sherry Lavoie, 8722 Crab Road. I'm not a farmer. I married a farmer. And these are the most wonderful people who farm land. It's not just a job. It's a way of life for them. And they take it very seriously, and they work very hard for serving our community and feeding the world. So to rezone that, to damage what they have inherited, built, bought into, they love it. And it's part of who they are and what they're about. And so I would, ask for a no on that rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Lori Lavoie Lindecker, Triple L Farming, 178 East Stearns Road. And my brother and I are third generation on the land, and we look forward to passing this land down to our kids, fourth generation. It is something that runs in our blood. It's something we're passionate about, and I object to the rezoning of the storage unit. And I hope that you as a board take everything into consideration and vote no as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, I'm Mark Farron. I'm from 95 East Stearns Road, south side of Stearns Road, and Lock It Up Storage is catty corner to me on the other side of Crab. I'm like 5 houses from the intersection. And I moved from Toledo up here about 30 years ago, and I've seen the industrial parks come. I've seen the original storage place come, and it's just like, where does it stop? I mean, I've got this beautiful farm across the road from me right now, and we love to watch them, you know, plant and harvest and all that. And from what I understand, there's an agreement from like 2005 that this would not be expanded on. And I guess we're talking about reneging on that now. So I guess I just understand or can't understand why we would do this. I mean, basically, if it were to create a bunch of jobs, I could understand that basically we're just increasing a place to store a bunch of Amazon crap, basically, that we buy that we don't need. I mean, what value is expanding the place, really? I mean, it's not going to do anything but ruin my view to my west right now. I mean, so basically, I'm no. So thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments?
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Kwiatkowski. I live at 330 West Stearns Road. Can you hear? I didn't know with this or not. Okay. What I would like to talk about is, again, the lock it up storage. I'm a partner and a manager of the 92-acre Stabinski Family Farm, LLC, which borders the storage facility on the west side. We're right across the railroad tracks. I researched through the Bedford Township meeting minutes and the Bedford Township website for the history of the storage facility, and here's the timeline that I came up with. September 10th, 2003, Erie Shores Storage Facility requested an I-1 planned industrial park zoning for the property number 5802-026-07000. Bedford Township Planning Commission recommended denial of request for the following reasons. The request is not compatible with the future land use map. The request does not meet the master plan strategies or the industrial development. The request goes against the intent of the master plan with respect to the buffer and the intended use of the potential rezoning of I-1 would go with the land and not the specific use intended by the requesting party. This request was withdrawn and never submitted to the Bedford Board for decision. Erie Shores Facility then requested a PUD approval and rezoning of the 20-acre parcel, requesting development of 5.64 acres with 14.36 acres as required open space to be zoned PUD Ag. On April 19, 2005, the Bedford Township Board voted to approve the PUD for Erie Shores mini storage with the following stipulations. The developer shall enter into the PUD agreement with the township. Building's appearance shall be as the design and color scheme for the evening's consideration. The parcel is totally in a floodplain and cannot be used for any other development other than the type being proposed. Number 4, the developer will continue to use the majority of the property to preserve the farmland characteristic and open space. In October of 2015, Bedford Township Master Plan was updated and adopted, and this plan states farmland can improve environmental quality with regard to protecting groundwater recharge areas, providing floodwater storage capacity, and creating wildlife habitat, which values often destroyed by development. Goal number 6 of the master plan is to preserve viable farmlands from conversion to and encroachment of agricultural uses in designated farm preservation areas. This property is in a designated agriculture preservation area, and that's according to the June 30th, 2015 Bedford Township Future Land Use Map. Lock It Up Storage is requesting the township to revoke the 2005 approved PUD plan and PUD agreement, and Bedford Township to rezone this property to I-1 Industrial Park District so they may develop the 14.36 acres that has been designated as open area. Planning Department requested a review of the request be conducted by Bedford Township Planner. In October 5th of 2021, Lucy Fortin of the Manick and Smith Group issued a review letter suggesting the Planning Commission recommend to the Township Board to deny the rezoning request for PUD Ag, Agriculture District, as the underlying district to I-1. These were the following key reasons. It's inconsistent with the Township Master Plan, its future land use, and its goals and strategies. The protection measure currently in place with the PUD agreement, including restricted use, increased setback, screening, and high-quality architecture, would be revoked and would not apply to a site development plan under the proposal of an I-1 district.
Thank you for your comments, sir. 5 minutes is up.
For the record, I respectfully petition the board to deny the request. Thank you.
Appreciate it. More comments?
We don't allow people to give their minutes. We don't allow people to give their minutes.
I'm Diane Kuzno, Roland Kuzno Farms Incorporated.
Hey, ma'am, can you pull that microphone?
Sorry,
The public won't hear you, so there you go.
I'm Diane Kuzno, Roland Kuzno Farms Incorporated. I live on Crab Road. This property is unique. It is in a wet plain, wetland, convergence of 3 primary drains that drain 2 square miles approximately of township residents. Building this site out increases their footprint to 300%. It also violates all of the entirety and theme in the master plan, which you have been brought to things. It does not support our 4 combined businesses that farm right here at this intersection, and we do employ, to combined, we do employ 8 full-time workers, 12 part-time seasonal workers, and we support, with our rents, all kinds of retirees and older people with supplemental income, which could in the exceeds of about 18 to 20. Okay, we have been in paying taxes since 1893. Just all of our personal farm, Kuzno Family Farms, we chartered this township. It wouldn't have been here if our people hadn't been on that land. It needed people to charter. We have been paying since the Property Act was instituted. Let's adjust our property tax for the cost of living. Let's adjust our property tax for the gold rate up until 1974. We, over 100 years, from 1893 to 1994, all of the property taxes paid by our properties and combined properties of 380 acres and families with over combined 460 years of paying taxes. That's everybody that is in these 3 farms. That's how many years, if you take them all and add them together. And put that together with our employee base. We source our inputs here. Our fuel bill for tomatoes alone was $130,000. We support this community. That's your road taxes. We pay property tax. We pay road tax. We pay highway use tax. We pay truck tax. We pay corporate income tax because we are a corporation. We are your businesses. You mention and lay out in the master plan that supporting local businesses and the tax base is important. This is not a trade-off here. Supporting the lock it up where they will infringe on the floodplain. They will infringe on the convergence of the 3 drain system. They will overwhelm the ditch banks. Detention ponds do not cure or add to the benefits of a floodplain. They forfeit the benefits of a floodplain. Please read what a floodplain is. You put it in your master plan, and there's all kinds of literature that I submitted on it. I can't waste more time. Lock It Up has claimed that they will improve the drainage for us. They are not building us drainage. They will only put in drainage for what they want. Their 300-foot footprint. That is not allowed in agriculture. You cut the knees off of Eagle. Eagle has nothing to say about it if you change it to I. If it is not changed to I, they cannot haul in backfill. You cannot haul backfill into a wetlands and on a floodplain. That's against Eagle. But Eagle will have to forfeit any authority over the floodplain, over the hazardous floodways across the street. This is the wettest area that recharges the water of the ground in all of Bedford. And we do not have a stream in connection of it. So if you industrialize, you are opening up the north side of the road to a cancer that will not stop, because legally you cannot stop it. Like my mother-in-law says, who do you stop it on? Do you tell us for our next 20 acres we can't make money? Or do you tell Stabinsky Trust they can't make money? Or so you're talking about 380 acres. You drew a line. It was Stearns Road. You have an industrial park. It's beautiful. It's on the other side of the road. You have one over on the other side of Crab on the other side of the road. Neither one are full. You have in the master plan, storage units are supposed to be in I. They can be in mixed use. Should never be rezoned to I. You open this north side of Stearns Road, you break your line, and who else are you going to break? You're setting a precedent that will not be able to be stopped. It is a chain reaction. And then you're also setting a precedent for all other large parcels of farm ground in Bedford. You claim it is a goal of the master plan to preserve.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Any other comments from the public? Anybody?
Good evening, Jerry Parker. I'm the attorney for Lock It Up. With me is Paul Shea and our consulting engineer.
Pull that up a little part.
Okay. Sorry, can you hear me better now?
Paul, he's able to speak though at the.
Yeah, you'll be able to speak at the actual item.
At the actual item.
I thought it was out of turn, but I thought I'd come up here. All right, thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, moving on to 8A, vouchers for payment. Ms. Hirschberger?
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $112,045.39. Fire District Fund, $3,014.32. Downtown Development Authority, $78.69. Library Operating Fund, $3,198.19. Building Department, $922.10. Sewer O&M Fund, $459,207.22. Trust and Agency Fund, $3,086.26, for a grand total of $581,552.17.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Ms. Januzak. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Januzak?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 6-0. Okay, item 8B, approve contract with MCRC for ditch work. This is what we budget for with excess grade all. This is for projects on the local road system where they would like a partnership. So, done it in the past. It's not too often we need to use it, but it does come in handy. So I'll make a motion we approve the contract with Monroe County Road Commission for the excess grade all in the amount of $5,000.
Support.
Okay, motion supported, Mr. Montry. Any more discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Ms. Januzak?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 8C, approve SEMCOG annual membership. Anybody have any comments? I'll just say it's everything that was said is right on from Mr. Frederick and Mr. Pryor. So, okay, look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the agreement with SEMCOG for $4,260 for the 2022 annual membership dues as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Mr. Bruning. Any more discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 6-0. Okay, item 8D, approval waiver from the 6-to-1 depth to width ratio for a land division for parcel 5802-008-010-00, also 10138 Secor Road. Okay, anybody have any comments or questions? If you'd like to come say a few words. It's looking good with not too many so far. I look for a motion. If you want to come up so they feel like they got their money's worth out of you being here. Well, that's not a knock. That's okay. Look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve a waiver from the 6-to-1 depth to width ratio for a land division for parcel 5802-008-010-00, otherwise 10138 Secor Road, as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Ms. Januzak. Any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 6-0. It was so well put together. So, okay, item E, approve lock it up self-storage request to revoke the PUD agreement and rezone parcel 5802-026-070-00 100 West Stearns Road from PUD planned unit development to I-1 planned industrial park with a conditional zoning agreement. Now you could come up. And Mr. Steiner, if you'd like to
I'll let him
take it,
go ahead first.
or whoever would like to go first, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, Jerry Parker, 1 Seagate, Toledo, Ohio, attorney for the applicant Lock It Up. With me is Paul Shea from Lock Up and our consulting engineer, Dennis Bell. We're here today with a recommendation from your plan commission of 5-2 for approval. There's many reasons for that, because a number of them answered the concerns and some of the factual statements that were made by the people in the audience. One, this is not a wetland. Two, you can fill in a floodplain. Three, there's no significant environmental issues with this property. It's not home to a habitat of an endangered species. It's underwater. 3/4 of this property is underwater right now, can't be farmed. It's not prime farmland. All of those factors were taken into consideration by the Planning Commission when they voted 5-2. The other factors that are really important here is that you all have read this contract that we entered into, which basically we were here over a year ago, and the Planning Commission recommended at that time approval even without this contract to the trustees, to this board. What happened at the trustees level was a concern by your consultant that, yes, if we've zoned this industrial, it would open up the floodgates for any kind of industrial use. Then with the cooperation of your legal counsel and the law firm, we put together over a period of 9 months this contract, which has so many protections for the township and the neighborhood. It's got more controls if you had agricultural zoning on the property. For example, there is no outside storage. All the garage doors cannot face the residence. There's landscaping buffer. Lighting have to be directed toward the property. All sorts of controls, and most importantly, this does not set a precedent because the only thing you can use this property for is self-storage, and the only thing you can do is build the buildings we're shown on the site plan, which you also have to approve. So it's not setting a precedent, but the self-storage or buildings are there. The property's underwater, and everybody that got up last time with concerns was complaining about flooding, that some of the water was actually going across Crab Road. We had our consulting engineer testify, and he will testify today, that this development will cure that, okay? It will stop that flooding, eliminate a dangerous condition for the township. Now, if that's not in the general interest of the township, I don't know what is. Now, with respect to the master plan, I don't have to lecture any of you. The master plan is a guide, as one of the Planning Commission members said. Secondly, there's more in the master plan than just a proposed land use plan. You're supposed to further the goals of the township, support economic development. This development will help school systems provide real estate taxes. It's not a serious windfall, but every bit helps without absolutely no burden on the schools. You couldn't have a quieter use than the self-storage. I think we all agree with that. Furthermore, it helps the citizens of the community because this place is full. All of them are full. You know what the township has done in the last 20 years. We've had a lot of wonderful residential developments. Those people use and need self-storage. So this facility is full right now, and it will accommodate more people and more residents of the township. So you got helping the residents of the township find self-storage. Secondly, provide a tax base and increase taxes for the school system and other uses without any burden. And thirdly, doesn't create any precedent for industrial zoning on any adjacent property given this contract. And that's the reason we went into this contract. And by the way, your staff and your law department has done an excellent job of protecting the township. I did not make one objection to the terms and conditions of this contract, which I hopefully you have read because it has a lot of protection for the townships and the residents. So that's the reason the township voted 5-2. I mean, the Planning Commission voted 5-2 to recommend to you to approve this zoning change with this contract in place, because it's something that was suggested to us at the last township trustees meeting I attended almost a year ago, and we consented to withdraw our application, and we consented to enter into this agreement. And it provides all sorts of protections for the neighbors that this isn't going to go any further. But secondly, it's going to help, and I invited the residents who were there. They could attend any meeting we have with the Monroe Drain Commission and be part of solving this drainage problem, because we understand there's flooding in the area. Our property's flooded. So to turn this down, what you're going to be left with is a flooded field, and it's still a drainage problem for all the residents and all the neighbors, because it won't get cured without us providing a basis to cure it through this development. So there's a lot of reasons to support this development. The Planning Commission agreed with that. I can't think of one reason, quite frankly, given this contract, to vote against it, because everything that is being proposed is in the general interest and further the general interest of the township and, quite frankly, the neighbors. And I repeat my offer. Any neighbor that wants to be with us at the Monroe Drain Commission to solve this problem is more than welcome to attend and be part of a list that I will notify them of everything that goes on. So that's why we have a 5-2 vote in favor of this. If you'd like to hear from our engineer on the wetlands or the floodplain issues, I'd be happy to bring him up here.
He could come up if we have questions. We don't need to. Go ahead, Mr. Steiner.
Well,
if you have anything to add, you can come add some, but I figured if you just wanted to hang for some questions, you might.
So as Mr. Parker had stated, there was a 5-2 vote to change from PUD to the I-1 zoning. I'm going to go ahead and go down the points. I know you have it in front of you, but the public doesn't necessarily have them, but go down through some of the points. I don't need to go through every single word. But the motion to approve from PUD to I-1 was to add language to include the approval of the 824 site plan to state the fence to enclose up to the office building, excluding the parking area and remaining perimeter of the property to maintain a minimum of 7 feet in height and a maximum of 8 feet in height fence. To remove language of resident manager to be allowed on site, that was to be removed. Removal of the living quarters was in that part of the motion. Respect to the approved site plan, due to no living quarters to be provided on the site, that was the reason for approval there. To amend, the language of there shall be no other activity, residing, hobby, or purpose allowed on the property. The next item was amend language to state no building erected on the site shall exceed 25 feet in height when the parcel abuts a residential and or agricultural district. Next point, remedies of adding language of 30 days to remedy violations of the agreement. The next one, next one was termination to coincide with the previous item of the 30 days. Contingent upon the approval of the development site plan, conditional rezoning agreement and approved site plan being recorded with Monroe County Register of Deeds. The applicant's representative, Mr. Parker, accepted all those amendments to the conditional rezoning. As it was stated, there's clearly saying no outdoor storage. I think the biggest things that came into question was the number of units that the property will hold if they expand fully. The part that's a little gray was that the Drain Commission will have the actual final say of the detention ponds, the drainage, and the metering out. So the Drain Commission might say they can build it out to 14 units. The Drain Commission might say they could build it out to 8 units or 10 units or whatever. There's no guarantee that that drainage, as they develop it, even though they're smart, there's no guarantee that that drainage will hold based on the number of units that the Drain Commission speculates that will fit. That's one concern that came up, myself and someone else on the board that said just how many is correct. What do you do if they say build 12, but the drainage didn't work right and you really should have had 9 or 10? There's no way to go back on it. The buildings are already there. There was some drainage clean out a year or two ago that when they cleaned out the drainage, it wasn't always the water literally crossing on top of Crab Road, crossing Crab Road and going downstream, which goes out to Lake Erie. There's people that were downstream that actually got flooded because when they cleaned it out, it was just like a floodway going down to those residents downstream. So that part of the motion, like I said, from a PUD to I-1 was a 5-2 vote. And then that was the first portion. The second portion was to revoke the PUD, and that was a 6-1 vote recommendation by the Planning Commission. So we've got a 5-2 on the rezone and a 6-1 on the revoke.
So just so the public knows, part of what the township does that we've been doing for, 3 years now, to where we send everything here first instead of going through. Typically this process would happen and then it would come to us, and sometimes the board would vote no. They just wasted a ton of money, ton of time, and then they come here. So what we've done, and I think it's a great idea, is they come here and we kind of give our blessing of, hey, this is something we would work with, and we did that. We've put this company through a heck of a lot, to get to this point. So I don't know how the board wouldn't approve it, to be quite honest with you, with everything that we've put them through. If we didn't want to do this, we should have told them that a year ago. But any more comments, discussions from board members?
Just one comment. You may want to advise them we are one member short. So
would you guys like to move forward? We are one member short. Okay. Do you want to add anything of the flooding?
I'm Dennis Bell from Bell Engineering, 105 Sam Anna Drive, Bryan, Ohio. We had a lot of conversation at the Plan Commission meeting about the flooding, and there's 2 existing detention basins on this site, and they each only have a 4-inch outlet. I've worked several projects with the Monroe County Drain Commission, and they're very thorough in what they do, and they go straight by the numbers. So I think Jerry's right. Ultimately, we'll take care of our water, but there could be water coming from somewhere else, and they're based on what Mr. Steiner said downstream. That was a whole different issue. That had nothing to do with lock it up storage. It was apparently a ditch that was cleaned from what I've been hearing. So you'll get storm events no matter what you do that'll exceed your design capacities, but you tried to build safety into that. So, but like I said, the Monroe County Drain Commission is very thorough at what they do. And this is in a floodplain. But it's not in a floodway. So Eagle allows building in a floodplain. You just have to elevate your building floors.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for him?
I don't have any questions. I have some comments, I suppose.
Okay.
So a year ago or whenever whenever this came to this board initially, I don't know if that was if it was a full year ago, but roughly a year ago, I had no issues whatsoever. I didn't foresee this being something that is going to get rezoned to industrial, and then they're going to the company's looking to pull a fast one to do something different than presented. So I had no issue with it whatsoever. Since that time, I've talked to some of these residents that have been here today, and watched all the planning meetings and read all the minutes of everything. And that invitation was given to these residents to be involved with whatever would happen through the Drain Commission, and clearly that has not appeased them or made them feel comfortable with what would potentially be happening to their land down the road. They don't feel that the current detention ponds are doing the job that they are intended to do, and certainly don't feel comfortable with future expansion, which I don't know how many times this land has been expanded upon. But per the master plan, and that this is supposed to be protected, and I don't think there's a worry about protecting the land that is owned by Lock It Up Self Storage, as we need to protect that specific farmland nearly as much as looking to protect the land east of the location, and as it goes closer to Lake Erie. I like listening the public comment tonight. I think that there's such a myriad of reasons that the residents are opposed to this zoning rechange. It's not the zoning rechange in and of itself. It's what will happen because of it. That there's so many things said, and I think the Planning Commission heard the same thing that I heard, which is at least from my standpoint, is there are a lot of issues, and it's not that industrial zoning is going to open it up a free-for-all, but it does make it more likely. It definitely makes it less likely to be preserving farmland there, and more likely to the same thing as when we do land splits, and every time you do something, you make it increased likelihood that it'll happen again and further. So that is I think one of the concerns, but I think the main concern is the flooding, and they don't seem to feel comfortable with what's being presented. It seems that, and I'm trying to think, there's 100 different things that were said by the residents and then said by the representatives. I know one of the things that Mrs. Cousineau had provided to me was that within a 100-year floodplain, this is from FEMA, that within a 100-year floodplain, it has a 1% chance that a flood's peak will be exceeded. But under urban development, that increases from 10 to 250% increase that floodplain will be exceeded. And how they describe that urban development is the impervious surfaces. So you put asphalt down, instead of that water landing on that land that is however many acres, and it's still flooding, and it's spread out over all that area, that when you're making all of that land impervious, it's all going to be, it's like if you're at your house, when it rains for 1 inch, and all that water is spread out over all of your land. If you took all of that water and dropped it in a bucket in one spot, it's a much different issue, and it's going to cause problems. And I'm going to rely on the farmers of this land that have been here for a long time, and I trust their judgment on, like, if there were, there isn't a way to, before we approve or reject this, for them to have lined up with the Drain Commission and everybody's happy with whatever, because the Drain Commission, in all actuality, even if they are involved in the meetings, the Drain Commission doesn't have to listen to them. They're gonna do by their numbers what whatever their numbers tell them. Okay, you need, which even that sounds, from the Planning Commission meeting, sounds like that's up in the air still, just because it doesn't sound like there's a for sure defined method of how they will expand, whether it will be all at once or it sounded like it'll be multiple times, and that would, so there isn't a for sure way for everyone to be appeased before we would approve, disapprove, or for it to ever get to the Drain Commission. So I'm going to be a nay for those reasons, and to lead on the expertise and the time of our residents and our farmers who are going to be affected if this proceeds.
Okay, any more comments? Seeing none? Okay, I look for a motion. Going once. Okay, we have no motion on the floor.
I'll go ahead and make the motion. I mean, it's in writing. I stuck my neck out and said no at the Planning Commission level, so I get what the applicant has requested, what they've tried to do. I understand that the Township Board said look at the type of contractual agreement. Yes, this board said go for that. Of course, we had no idea exactly what the contractual language would say. And as I stated early on here, I think one of the biggest things is the drainage issue that, to me, is not a closed loop issue.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, my motion is to deny the rezoning from PUD to I-1 on parcel 58-02-026-070-00.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported. Ms. Januzak, any more discussion? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Janusek?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 6-0. Do you have one?
Well, you don't have to make the second one because we didn't approve the first one.
Okay. All right, moving on to comments from the public. Comments limited to 2 minutes for each individual.
Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. Thank you for the approval of the SEMCOG membership. I congratulate you on perhaps a Guinness World Record on the number of people who viewed the YouTube meeting, which last I saw was about 4,800 people. Not all of those are Bedford, because I was talking to a good number of folks that I had breakfast with, and they were passing it out all over the country to take a look at it. I want the folks who are in the audience, and also the folks who watch this, to learn that when you come in and make an impressive and impassionate plea to the board about something that is very dear to them, that will in fact be beneficial. It's important that folks remember coming here and making a presentation, whether it's for or against, is important, because that's part of our government. PUD has been around a long time. It started out because we didn't have a condominium ordinance. A planned unit developed program permits you to put restrictions on the development as it goes forward so that you, in turn, have control. If it's a straight zoning program, you just kind of watch and see what happens. So I don't have a dog in a fight with this tonight, but I still believe that you should maintain PUD control over this site, as you will then have a management tool to assure that it goes forward the right way. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Perfect.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. In regards to that drainage, I saw a backhoe on that property at one time, and I called. And Eagle was notified, and they were out there immediately and stopped it because that is wet. And you just don't get to do what you want to do in those wetlands. I don't care if it's a wet plain or a floodplain or whatever, there's rules. Drainage, the Drain Commission cannot clean a drain unless there's a petition by the people. And those people will pay for that drain to be cleaned, not lock it up. In another huge concern to me, there seems to be multiple situations as of late where policy is set aside in certain scenarios. I would like to add to my inquiry to correct those minutes regarding the two people that were allowed to speak without name and address, a question in policy of getting bids. I have recently learned that it seems to be considered proper to approach a business, ask for a quote, and then inform that business that the max amount that they can ask for is $1,500, which would allow the person seeking the bid to freely do whatever they doggone well do without having to get approval from other people or the rest of the board. This doesn't sound proper to me, and I really believe that it eeks of improper use of someone's privileges. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Josh Neer, Core 7948, Wiseman or Lambertville. First off, thank you for preserving agriculture and keeping the wetlands protected. That's good for them. Second, another thing too, is regard to the last meeting, the information that I found out about money that was spent by somebody for their own personal gain, and I don't think that's okay at all. My taxes have gone up this year, and then this happens. Be frugal with the money. If the park board didn't approve it at first, why was it spent? It's November, not March or April. The kids aren't going to be playing on it for a while. They could have waited a while longer. I don't like that someone's being elected, that they're using the township money for personal gain. I'm against that. And honestly, if you're going to tell somebody to resign, look at yourself in the mirror. He's not the one who should be resigning. You should. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have a good night. Any more comments?
I'd like to thank you for your vote, and then I also wanted to touch on one thing.
Pull that mic
down. Sorry. Yeah. Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for your vote. I couldn't get to everything that I had, but I did really want to touch on one thing that I read that I was unaware of in the master plan, and is that the township has set aside certain requirements for businesses that they are allowing on any intersecting road of Stearns Road, and they address them by name, of Stearns and Secor, Douglas and Secor, Jackman and Secor, Lewis and Secor, and they have neglected to mention Crab and Secor. It is a business corridor, and under the set forth rules that you have, family businesses are being allowed at those intersections, but they are only to be limited to building and constructing on 25% of their parcel, and that is a hard firm. So I would hope that Lock It Up Storage is already at 25% of their parcel, but I would hope that in some future time you could address what your intentions are specifically, or include Crab Road in the rest of the description of Stearns Road intersections, because if an exception is made at Crab Road in the future, you are basically not upholding what you're holding every single other business to at the other intersections of Stearns and Secor. I'm sorry. I don't know if I said Crab or not. I meant Stearns and Secor, Stearns, Douglas, Stearns, Jackman, Stearns, Lewis. Just wanted to say that. And then also my information on Eagles, what they can and cannot do, came directly from Eagles' chief engineer who does the permitting. So I am correct.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm going to have to fly through this. All right, Josh Stump, 7178 Wiltshire Drive. First off, thank you to the Clerk's Department for having another successful election. Trudy, I believe that's your most important job, and I think you continue to do wonderful with that. Last meeting, for me, I believe it was one of the most embarrassing things that I've seen from our township. I work for Senator Zorn, who represents Monroe and Lenawee County, so I deal with a lot of people outside of our township, and I can say that our board has become the laughing stock of Monroe County, just from things that I've heard and seen from other people. I believe, and it's obviously true, you guys are our elected officials. You are supposed to represent us. I refuse to believe that this board represents the best of Bedford Township. Individually, you are all great people who have ran with good intentions, but as a whole, this board is dysfunctional. Many who have lived here their entire lives have said this is the worst that they've ever seen. Words to describe this board, in my opinion, dysfunctional, ineffective, inefficient, embarrassing. Anyone who's watched the last 2 years can see that decisions are being made off of whose idea it is instead of the merit of the idea itself. This board cares more about who it comes from than if it's good for Bedford. After a meeting in December of 2020, I called in and said this. It came off as very passive-aggressive, came off as petty and personal. I understand you guys are a new board working together, so hopefully you can figure out how to put Bedford first instead of your personal cheap political points. I've never called in before, but there's a reason why I'm calling in now. Hopefully moving forward, you guys can figure out a way to work together and do what's best for the township. That was almost 2 years ago, and nothing's changed. So it's pretty frustrating to watch. As for ARPA, the funds and that whole committee, I think there should be a committee of the whole. I think you guys should be able to communicate with that committee, this board, so that you guys are on the same page, and especially passing along communication to the community. I would love to see those meetings recorded so people can watch them, working on communication with what's going on with that committee. I know that Trustee Steiner has mentioned a tracking tool. I've seen it. It's very extensive, very elaborate. Maybe it's too much, but I think it's a good starting point to have a conversation with and how you get. Oh, that was quick 2 minutes. All right.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any more comments?
I just would like to say thank you for preserving Farm Road. Got a frog in my throat.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay, comments from board members? Mr. Steiner?
The only thing I'm going to say is the lock it up. That was a extremely lengthy discussion at planning. I think it might have been different if they came in with a solid, I want to build 8 units. The Drain Commission says, this is the ponds that will be developed for sure. You cannot go any further. Here's the impervious surfaces. And a little bit more true analysis and study instead of an engineer saying, oh, yeah, it'll support it. And, oh, instead of a 4-inch drain, they're going to put 8-inch pipes in for the metering out. I talked to a few people after the fact, and they said that the applicant had come in, they put on their presentation, which was okay, but even some of the people outside of the families here that it truly affects, other people outside of that, said that they felt that the presentation wasn't strong enough to support what their request was. Again, you could put up to, I think it was 14 units they might be able to put down in that property if it was approved. So that was a huge constraint. Like I said, I myself voted no. Mr. Swank voted no, for the rezoning. And then the second portion was, for some reason, it was 6-1, not 5-2 like the rezoning. But anyway, that's all. And I hope the residents, I know that you're very pleased with the decision of this board, and as Mr. Frederick said, not that you're going to have something every time that the citizens come in and state their case why we should or should not do something, that it's always going to go that way. But don't ever feel like it's just like saying my voice doesn't count, my vote doesn't count. Well, in this case, I think I heard it from up here, there was a lot of impact, family impact over hundreds of years that truly let people know on this board, who has the final authority, that said no, and you got a unanimous vote actually for a no. And I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I really wasn't, because I mean, you want local business to survive. You want them to expand when it's possible, but to do an encroachment, as we said, moving into the farmland, they probably wouldn't go any further with that into the I-1, but you just don't know what the next request could be. And that's always our biggest challenge, is what could be next. We may not be here, and you might get another 7 people up here say, oh yeah, just go for it. Go to the next one. So at least at this point, this board took a stand that we wanted to limit it right there where we're at. So that's all.
Okay, Mr. Montry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to all of the farmers for everything you do just in general, taking care of the rest of us dummies who think food comes from the store, as well as for speaking up for your land and for your families, and for just everything that you stand for, and for letting that be known. That's all I have.
Mr. Bruning?
Same thing. It's like everyone has said, squeaky wheel gets the grease. With you guys coming in and telling us, a lot of times it's just left up to the board, and we get no input. Even when we ask and we would request it, emails, tell us something, tell us how you feel. Nothing happens. So then we're left up to make our own judgment. With all you guys coming in, and I know a lot of us were contacted even before this meeting, so that's what you have to do. Let us know what you want done. As far as Park Board wants input from the residents as far as ideas to ask for, what to do, what do you want from your parks. There are signs that they had made. They'll be posted at the parks. And I saw one here at the township when I came in. So they're going to want your input on that for anyone who wants to let us know how you want to go the parks to go. Other than that, this weekend, go blue. Everybody have a good night, good weekend, rest of the week. Thanks.
Okay, Ms. Janizek?
In the Treasurer's Department, we've started preparing the winter tax bills. They're going to be mailed out December 1st. If anyone has any questions, or if your mailing address has changed, please contact my department so we can get that taken care of. Other than that, everyone have a safe and happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, Ms. Hirschberger?
I want to let the board know first off that the 2 monitors that we approved were not compatible. So I'm going to go back and look and see and bring that back to the board. Different monitors, different ones that I definitely know are compatible with the system that we're looking at. So I'll bring that back as soon as I get some quotes and some different TVs. The election went fairly smoothly with the voter turnout of 54%. That was really good. This was one of the larger midterm elections, not the highest, but pretty close to it. And I want to thank my staff, all the election workers. They did a great job. Again, it was a long night, and all the churches and the library for allowing us to use their locations for voting. Lastly, I want to wish everyone an early happy Thanksgiving Day and remind you that the Township Hall will be closed on Thursday and Friday, November 24th and 25th to observe the holiday.
Okay. Well, the first thing I'd like to do is apologize for the way I handled myself at the last board meeting. It's not the way I want to represent this community or myself as a Christian. Oftentimes, there is very frustrating meetings, and I'm not perfect. So, and neither any of you or anybody up here. But ultimately, I do the best I can. It's unfortunate that a couple individuals, can look at me putting mulch down at the pocket parks, not just my pocket park next to my house, and put mulch down. Okay, it's something that the maintenance department and myself, we oversee. When something needs something, we take care of it. Okay, none of the pocket parks had mulch, and that's a safety issue for our residents. If a kid falls and gets hurt on playgrounds with no mulch, we're sued, period. Okay, so I told my maintenance guys to go to the pocket parks and put mulch down. Did I know it was going to be as many yards as they did? No, but ultimately, the process of it, the bill was sent to Bob for it to be paid, and I didn't know, but Chazman sent it back to Bob and said, we're not paying this. He doesn't have the authority to do that. That bill should have went to the board, and then at that point, they could have voted no. So what Bob did, and I didn't even talk to Bob, he brought it to Mr. Pryor. Mr. Pryor signed it. Be nuts to me. Okay, so at that point, I found out later on that that had happened. I would have said, no, Mr. Miller, send it to the park board, which last meeting they proved it last night. We have to have mulch. And ultimately, if you feel like I'm trying to be shady by putting mulch in a pocket park, you got to look back at the record, okay? I wouldn't have worked tirelessly to get volunteers on a fire hall that collapsed 2 foot and work on it with a team of volunteers and save the township $60,000, $70,000. Or the sidewalk from the junior high to the library, 700 feet of 6 foot wide sidewalk. We did it for $600, okay? You don't do things like that and have intentions like that, and I'm just naming a couple, and think I'm trying to be shady spending $1,500 on mulch to be safe and protect our residents. Don't do like individuals that have come here for 14 years straight and have negative attitudes, because it's personal, okay? It's personal. That's all it is. Same people, same meetings. We have good intentions. We work hard. We have the biggest fund balance in the history of this community. That doesn't happen from being crooked, okay? That happens from hard work and being frugal and working hard to protect the tax dollars here. And we've done that. We have the nicest roads in the county. We have the best fire department in the county, okay? And we have the largest fund balance. We're doing a great job, okay? Let's not get petty about mulch. So that's the first thing. No, it's frustrating when you're...
I accept your apology. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. But it's frustrating, though, and you have to agree, when your intentions are good, okay, and somebody thinks the intentions are bad...
The whole way you went about it.
The tensions...
That was the problem.
Just keep in mind now.
But we're good now.
Keep in mind, I didn't sign the bill. Okay, so the process shouldn't have happened like that. But moving forward, yes, but when your intentions are good and people think that they're bad, people, not fun, okay, it's frustrating. And but I do want to congratulate Trudy and her team. They work all night long on this election, and you guys do a fine job. I know it's easy for people to poke holes in everything that we do, you know, but you guys work hard and did a nice job. I want to mention Blizzard Fest is December 10th from 3 to 9 at Compelled Church. And I want to thank Jewel, because that woman right there worked so hard for months and months and months, along with Tasha and Lexi, to bring this free event to this community. That's why I fight so hard for events, because they bring people outside of our community in, and it's economic development. And I'm just excited and thankful that you work so hard on it. It'll be at Compelled Church this year. Shuttles will be at North Point Christian Church right off Temperance Road, and Lake Erie Transit will be shuttling everybody back and forth. So the holidays are coming, so keep in mind with your local businesses. Let's patronize them. Let's not go to Toledo and buy all the gift cards. Look at some of the local places we have here. Let's support them. We're not hesitant to go knock on the doors and ask for $50 for our kids' ball teams. So keep them in mind when we're shopping and you know, going about. Lake Erie Transit did not renew their millage. Their fund balance is so high with all the different grants that have come in over the past couple of years. They don't need to renew the millage, so they have enough funds to get us through for the next few years. The library did renew, and they're looking at a lot of nice projects. Our library is doing very well. Mr. Pryor's been going to all the meetings, and it's been a great working relationship. That's how liaisons should work. Come to the township supervisor and let me know what's going on, and we work together as a team, and we get a lot of things done. But like Mr. Stump said, the last couple of years have been frustrating. I worked 3 years straight on the Lewis Avenue Redevelopment Committee to bring things there, and politics got in the way of that board. And it is frustrating. We don't have a board that works very well together, but I think we can do better. and I think we need to try harder, and because ultimately we represent the residents. I've been involved for 14 plus years now, and the intentions have to be the residents. When they get off of that and they get personal and they get political, nothing gets done, and you waste money and you waste time. There is a burning ban in effect currently. The fire chief and the fire department put that in effect. There's been a lot of issues with wind and dry leaves, so the fire chief has sole authority to do that. So we'll keep an eye on that when that effect comes off. And the sheriff's department, we contract with the sheriff's department, period. We don't call them up and say, hey, you didn't write enough tickets this month, or hey, how come so many hours? We contract with them, and that's how it goes. They do their job, and I can say that this board is extremely happy with what they do. I know for 100% fact that Mr. Goodenough is doing one of the finest jobs this community's ever seen in a sheriff, and we're thankful for them. Now, I would recommend, if you have comments or questions for him, get a meeting with him. And maybe there's a reason why somebody worked 80 hours and only wrote 2 tickets, because we don't know. And I really don't think it's our job to really get into depth and question them of what they're doing and why they're doing it. We have to trust our sheriff and what they're doing because we contract with them. If this board doesn't trust them and we don't like what they're doing, end the contract. That's the option. But to tell them how to police, I don't think that's our job, because I'm no expert in it, and I don't think anybody on here is. It's opening day for gun season, and if you're driving around, there's deer everywhere. They're in full rut, so stay off your phones driving, because you'll hit a deer right now. Especially, they don't think at all right now. Their mind's focused on one thing, and I don't need to say what it is. So keep your eye out. There's deer running everywhere. Other than that, I just want to thank the board for all the hard work tonight and the community for coming out. We appreciate it. We love having a full room. So look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Support. Adjourned.